Doctor Juan Pablo, estoy listo. Podemos empezar.
Hola.
Hi there. Good morning to everyone. Welcome to all the shareholder and shareholder representatives. We will begin the ordinary assembly of the Colombian Stock Exchange. I welcome Dr. Mauricio Rosillo, our Board of Directors President, the other members, shareholders, Dr. Gustavo Roa, representative of KPMG, our auditor, and everyone else who is joining us today. As you know, it is customary in our assembly for the President of the Board of Directors to preside over the meeting. I will therefore hand over to Dr. Mauricio Rosillo to formally open the shareholder assembly. Thank you, Dr. Cordova. Good morning, everyone. Special greeting to the Board of Director members present here, Dr. Roa, and all shareholders and shareholder representatives. We are very pleased to have you all here at the Ordinary Assembly of the Colombian Stock Exchange. We formally begin the shareholder assembly. Dr. Velandia, let us proceed to form the quorum. Good morning, shareholders. May I inform you that at the start of the assembly, could you help me with the report?
Se encuentran representadas
51,052,806 shares, equivalent to 84.37% of the share issued in the stock exchange, are represented, which, such as the number of shares and percentages, there is sufficient quorum to deliberate and decide. We would like to briefly explain how platform that will allow voting on the proposal to be considered by the shareholder works. A voting platform will be provided before the assembly development, and participants must have a suitable internet connection from their mobile devices. In case of quick or no signal, you can use the hotel's Wi-Fi, whose password was given to each attendee at the time of registration and is projected on the screen. If you experience any difficulty with the Wi-Fi connection, please request the support of our technical staff, who are distributed throughout the room and can assist you with any difficulty. Next, I will briefly explain the procedure for voting on the different items on the agenda. At the time of registration, each attendee received an SMS text message containing the access link to the voting platform. To access the platform, please enter your username and password. The username is the registered email and the password is the identification number. In the platform, you will find the motion subject to voting. The platform's voting functionality will be activated each time the chair announces the opening of voting for each proposition to be considered. Voting will be open for the time period that the Assembly Secretary reports when this instruction is given. Each of you must select the Verified Active Votes button. Once you see that the respective motion is open, select it. Next, you will see on the screen the list of shareholders associated with your credential and the following options: in favor, against. For the points related to the selection of board members, the voting options will be in favor, against, or blank. For the proposed list, if you represent several shareholders, you have the following two options: select the vote option individually for each of them, or if the vote's direction is the same for all represented, select the all button and then vote for the selected ones. When you have selected the shareholder for whom you wish to vote, A control notice will appear on the screen to confirm the shareholders. You must click on the I agree button, then the voting option will be activated, and finally you must confirm the vote by clicking on the I agree button. It is necessary to warn that if you don't choose of any of the options, the system will consider it an abstention. Once you have selected the I agree option, you cannot change the direction of your vote. After the vote is over, the secretary will inform the results. If you encounter any inconvenience at any time, you can request support from the support team located in different points of the room, who will be available to assist you during the course of the session. At the time determined by the President of the Assembly, you can participate in the Assembly by raising your hand, and the President will authorize the intervention, granting access to the microphone so that you can make your intervention for each item on the agenda. According to the operating regulations of the Assembly, intervention that the President of the Assembly considers necessary will be allowed, and each intervention will be maximum of 5 minutes. No shareholder may intervene more than twice on the same topic. Second point, appointment of the President and Secretary of the Assembly in accordance with paragraph of Article 36 of the bylaws, in accordance with the paragraph of Article 36 of the social bylaws of the stock exchange. I inform the Assembly that it corresponds to the President of the Board of Directors, Dr. Mauricio Procedure to preside over the Assembly, in accordance with Article 36 and 71 of the bylaws. Acting as Secretary of the Assembly will be the legal Vice President and General Secretary of the company, Dr. Alberto Villan. Third point, reading and consideration of the agenda. The proposed agenda for this meeting is as follows. First, verification of quorum. Second, appointment of the President and Secretary of the Assembly. Third, reading and consideration of the agenda. Fourth, appointment of the Commission for Scrutiny and for the review and approval of the respective record. Fifth, approval of the management report of the Board of Directors and the President of the Exchange for the year 2022, which includes A. Corporate Governance Report and B. Audit and Risk Committee Report. Sixth, reports and opinions of the statutory auditor. Seventh, approval of the separate and consolidated financial statements for the year 2022 and approval of the budget allocation for its management. Eighth, study and approval of the creation of reserves on the project for distribution of profits. Ninth, election of independent members of the Board of Directors. 10th, election of non-independent members of the Board of Directors. 11th, establishment of fees for board members. 12th, election of the statutory auditor and approval of the budget allocation for its management. 13th, social responsibility program and annual donation program. 14, proposal from shareholders in accordance with Article 44 of the social bylaws. It is reported to the shareholders that the Assembly was convened by the President of the Exchange with prior authorization from the Board of Directors, and that it was duly convened in advance through a notice published on page 25 of the La República newspaper and on the first page of the electronic publication, both publications made on February 27, 2023, in accordance with Article 33 of the bylaws. It is also reported that the documents indicated under Article 446 of the Commercial Code were published from March 8, 2023 on the digital platform of the exchange. Furthermore, the books and the other documents required by law were made available to interested shareholders for inspection in person at the exchange offices and by appointment coordinated with Secretary. Similarly, information regarding the points to be decided by the Assembly was timely published on the exchange digital platform. In addition to the above, it is reported that for those shareholders who couldn't participate in this meeting, The change has made available a mechanism that allows them, for informational purposes and to comply with the recommendations established in the Best Corporate Practices Code of Colombia, to follow the development of the Assembly through the link indicated on the Exchange digital platform, with simulations translation to English in real time. Very well, thank you, Dr. Belandi. The approval of the agenda is submitted for consideration of the shareholders. Shortly, the voting process will be opened. I kindly ask each of you to verify that you are active on the voting platform. From this moment on, the voting process is open. Please select the Verified Active Votes button on the platform. Once you see that the motion is open, select one of the voting options. We will close the voting process in a few seconds. The voting process has been closed. Please, Dr. Belandia, tell us the results of the voting. The results of the vote indicated that the third item on the agenda has been approved by 49,335,191 shares, which represents 96.49% of the quorum present at the meeting. Therefore, the item has been approved. Let us proceed to read the next item on the agenda. The fourth item is the appointment of committees for both courting and review of the minutes. In accordance with Article 11 of Shareholder Meeting Regulation, a committee must be appointed for the review and approval of the minutes. In this regard, the board proposes the following attendees: Dr. Maria Elisa Posada, representative of Bancolombia and other shareholders; Dr. Mónica Alexandra Forero, representative of the Vivienda Brokers and other shareholders; and Nestor Antonio Pupu, representative of Milvia Opportunity Master Fund and other shareholders. The appointment of committee for both counting and review of the minutes is submitted for consideration of the shareholders. From this moment on, the voting process is open. Please select the Verified Active Votes button on the platforms. Once you see that the motion is open, select one of the voting options. The voting process is now open. We will now close the voting process. Dr. Belandia. Point number 4, the approval of the appointment and commission for scrutiny and approval of the minutes has been approved by 97.66% of the quorum present, equivalent to 49,934,174 shares. Thank you very much. Let us proceed to read the next point on the agenda. . The fifth point, which is the approval of the management report of the board of directors and the president of the stock exchange. I give the floor of the Dr. Juan Pablo Cordova, president of the exchange, to present the report, which was made available to all of you through the BBC digital platform and was available to all shareholders during the period established by law for inspection. I would like to note that the management report includes the corporate governance report and the audit and risks report. Dr. Cordova. Thank you very much, Dr. Rosillo. As mentioned, the report has been made available to shareholders, and I will provide a summary presentation of the main elements of the management report. This is the map that you are familiar with, which has been the guide for our strategy since 2018, based on 6 pillars.
Wise. We have the deepening of our core business, everything that has to do with market to expedite the conversion to a 100% digital market, innovation to leverage our growth, vertical integration in the Colombian market, where all the value chain of structure of the capital market will be under one umbrella. In this case, under the BVC of Colombia, our initiative of regional integration, and at last, the part on sustainability. I'm going to briefly cover each one of them, but highlighting the main elements. As to markets, last year it was a very complex year, as you all know, in terms of the performance of the main macroeconomic variables in the country, mainly financial variables, inflation, interest rate, expectation, exchange rate, which really affected the performance of the market. Now, withstanding this, I think it is a pleasure to inform that all the fronts in which we participated in the activity of providing services to market brokers, we saw a positive result in volume. Obviously, other things were not that favorable, but as to volumes, it was a very good performance. And from the standpoint of new financial instruments, I think it is worth mentioning the development of the Colombian global market in Colombia, which is an opportunity we're given to national investors of having exposure to foreign assets in Colombian pesos through the Colombian global market. We've seen there very important dynamics, and also through the listing of DTFs that we had 12 DTFs, with the exception of the stock capitalization. We see very positive figures with volumes in stocks growing at 8%, as to fixed market a growth of 16%, in derivatives of 44%, understanding derivatives in stock as well as derivatives in OTC market through our platforms, and also in the foreign currency market with a growth of 9%. As to risk management through the chamber, we have an open position of 280 billion pesos, 2 digits, and this is an inform that I like to share with the audience and with authorities. I think this is quite significant, and it is not well disseminated and well understood. In Colombia, we have an infrastructure which is very sound and robust, which enables us to manage risk in the long term through a chamber that complies with all the international standards. Position of 280 billion pesos. So this is a country's asset. And in the conversation with authorities, I always the markets, there is a concern of the livestock or agricultural market, and this is a tool that we can make available to the country in a broader manner. As to volumes, the growth of currency, $389 billion as to values in custody. In spite of price volatility, we had a recovery regarding the volume in custody by the end of the year with a growth of 6%, and something, a milestone that is very important through the digitization that we have been promoted together with our allies in the capital market. We have had the participation of 147,000 people through digital platforms which access our capitalization, and that is extremely important. As to massification, we are leveraging the digital topics, and we believe that they are in the right path. As to penetration, obviously, we are aiming at higher penetration and more use of the platforms. However, the macroeconomic environment is going to have a positive incidence and in positive cycles. We will see how these new tools are going to allow us to reach out new customers. As to digitization, we have been moving forward in new products. You saw the evolution of Ascenso. It's been working for 3 years. This is a 100% digital platform that enables to access financing to SMEs. We have more than 140 SMEs that have access to the platform with 70 billion pesos financed by over 10,000 investors, and we have plans to continue growing in that mechanism and to launch the stock market there for new companies, for entrepreneurships. As to supporting our allies in the development of their digital instruments, we must underscore the successful acceptance and welcoming of the digital notes through our platform, BACTA. This allows for banks and credit institutions and fintechs that are offering credits to individuals can access the issuance of the notes in the point of sale. For example, if I'm going to buy something in a shop, I can have to a credit digitally, and the note will be issued immediately electronically. So we have seen quite a growth in this product with around 8 million notes, digital notes issued last year, and 75 new customers. Here, the market infrastructure has moved away from the traditional market, from traditional credit institutions, and today we have more than 300 customers in this product. As to the sustainable segment, I will highlight that we have been promoting the issue of sustainable bonds, green and social bonds, with a great acceptance. And in the last 2 years, we have seen a great demand by institutional shareholders. So we have 6 thematic bonds issued in the Colombian capital market, and we are working with an ally for a platform that will enable
de los emisores. En los siguientes frentes, nuestro trabajo con los clientes, la razón de ser de todo lo que hacemos es mejorar los servicios que le prestamos a nuestros clientes y ser aliados de los clientes para que puedan desarrollar sus propias iniciativas. Reestructuramos nuestro equipo comercial para estar con mejor presencia y mayor presencia en digamos, las 3 principales regiones del país que cubrimos directamente y a través de 5 segmentos de clientes. En lo que tiene que ver con gestión de riesgos, creo que bien importante, pues uno, todo el énfasis que se pone en las plataformas tecnológicas a través de las cuales prestamos los servicios, que en promedio tuvieron un desempeño del 99.92%. Y seguir fortaleciendo el tema de ciberseguridad. Como ustedes saben, hoy en día la principal amenaza para todas las compañías que prestamos servicios a través de servicios tecnológicos están asociados con el tema de ciberseguridad. Allí tenemos que profundizar no solamente nuestras baterías de defensa, las pruebas de intrusión voluntarias para mirar dónde están nuestras vulnerabilidades, pero un tema muy importante que es la formación y la capacitación de todo nuestro personal, incluido el consejo directivo, los comités de riesgos, comités de auditoría, etcétera. Ahí avanzamos en nuestra capacitación y formación, y sobre todo para tener muchas alertas y pruebas con el personal de la organización. En lo que tiene que ver con conectividad con nuestro ecosistema, seguimos impulsando nuestro reconocimiento IR, que ha dado muy buenos frutos. Los analistas, digamos, de fuera del país que observan los reportes de nuestros emisores en términos pues de la información que se divulga al mercado, han recogido con muy buenos comentarios y reconocido al mercado colombiano en ese avance. Tenemos allí 31 emisores que reportan, digamos, dentro del sello BBC IR. Y asimismo sacamos la guía de inversión responsable en Colombia para facilitar toda la adopción de las normas de reporte climático. En los temas de gobierno corporativo, que es uno de los informes del Consejo Directivo a esta asamblea, están los informes de los 5 comités del Consejo Directivo que tenemos. Tenemos el Comité Administrativo y Financiero, el Comité de Auditoría y Riesgos, el Comité de Gobierno Corporativo y Sostenibilidad, el Comité de Regulación y el Comité de Tecnología, que está compuesto adicionalmente a un miembro del Consejo Directivo con 2 miembros externos. Todos ellos pues, han realizado, digamos, todas sus actividades dentro de los reglamentos de los comités y hemos avanzado, digamos, de manera correcta. El informe completo pues, está en el informe que se ha puesto a disposición de los accionistas. Y un punto para destacar, estamos, digamos, sometiéndonos a una evaluación internacional del CSA de Standard & Poor's en temas de precisamente gobernanza, sostenibilidad, etcétera, y en nuestra dimensión de buenas prácticas de gobierno corporativo y gobernanza mejoramos 2 puntos en la calificación. De todas maneras tenemos que seguir trabajando en seguir mejorando para llegar a tener mejores calificaciones en la región. En lo que tiene que ver con inclusión financiera y educación, también hemos venido apoyando desde hace años algunas iniciativas que creemos están teniendo un impacto muy positivo y también nos llenan de satisfacción. En particular, hemos venido apoyando en los últimos 3 años a Protalento, que es una iniciativa para financiar la transición, digamos, de jóvenes con conocimientos en temas de tecnología, desarrollo de software, administradores de bases de datos, etcétera, al mercado laboral de manera muy rápida con capacitaciones integrales, no solamente en temas técnicos, sino en temas de, pues digamos, ¿cómo se dice? Eso, gracias. Habilidades socioemocionales que facilite la llegada al mercado de capitales con muy buen éxito. Con el incremento en los aportes que hemos venido haciendo allí, logramos aumentar de 60 jóvenes a 82 jóvenes apoyados en Protalento, de los cuales 47 ya están empleados y 35 continúan, digamos, en su etapa de formación. Hemos logrado incrementar la participación de mujeres, es uno de los objetivos. Ya estamos con 37% de participación de mujeres dentro de los jóvenes, digamos, apoyados, y tenemos un índice de empleabilidad de este programa del 76%, o sea que los muchachos que vienen a nuestro programa, obviamente en un proceso de selección muy agudo, teniendo un éxito de empleabilidad del 76%. Es un programa que nos llena de satisfacción y orgullo, como digo, y creemos que está teniendo un impacto positivo en un punto donde el país necesita muchas más personas en este mercado laboral, y dándole opciones a los jóvenes, que son quienes tienen mayor tasa de desempleo. Asimismo, estamos con un programa de becas en el Politécnico Internacional que también hemos venido reforzando en los últimos años. Pasamos de 20 becas a 39 becas. Aquí también tenemos un énfasis en aumentar la participación de las mujeres, pero pues ha sido más retador en este contexto, con una participación del 18% de mujeres. A través de Inversor, que es el fondo de inversión sostenible que hemos venido apoyando
which
por
is a
más de 10 años,
sustainable
también tenemos un impacto positivo
fund.
en la
We
comunidad,
have a very positive
y en
impact
particular
in the
generación de
community,
empleo,
mainly
digamos,
generation of
de
jobs
población vulnerable,
and
estatus 1
mainly
y 2.
vulnerable population.
Finalmente, en los temas de
Income brackets
educación,
1
el año
and 2.
pasado fue un año
As to
muy
education,
importante
last year was a
darle
very
una
important year
nueva cara y un nuevo
because
aire
we
a
gave
nuestros
like a
programas de
new
educación
phase to
financiera,
our financial literacy
donde tuvimos
programs,
en los
And in the online courses, we had more than 1,400 participants with a growth of over 40%. We relaunched a training initiative in companies in the area of financial markets and in the capital market with 36 companies and more than 1,000 participants with a growth of 450%. And in a contest that in Spanish is called Bolsa Millonaria, we had almost participants. As to the financial area, which is very interesting for this assembly, I mean, just some figures on the financial statements. First and foremost, this is the 5th ongoing year with a AAA rating by the 2 rating agencies in Colombia. We closed the year with a consolidated income of 260 billion pesos, an EBITDA of 77 billion. And we see that the EBITDA margin is of 32%, and the idea is to overcome 30% in EBITDA. So this is a good financial result, taking into account that last year was a very complex financial year. As to the profit, it doesn't look that good. We had a drop of 34%. This is at the level of the consolidated group. As you know, the individual profit of BVC is of over 37 billion pesos. But then this is for the distribution of profits. There is an impact on the tax reform, given the deferred tax that is the result of the increase in capital earnings from 10 to 15%. So we have to make a provision. Uses the profit of the consolidated, but this doesn't affect individual financial statements. And we are proposing this dividend here. And we are distributing 100% of ordinary profit and some of the reserve of the company that we will explain shortly. So the result of financial statements are very good. As you see, with this over 260 billion here, you see the distribution by business line and by company. And the post-negotiation and issuers are the main generators of income. And on the side of the companies, Ceval and Bolsa are the ones that produce more income. From the balance sheet standpoint, assets of 749 billion pesos, and an equity of 630 billion pesos, and cash flows of over 78 billion pesos. These are the individual results of each company. You have that information with you. I only want to highlight certain things. These financial yields that I just mentioned at the consolidated level, but at the individual level, the results are also very good. And here you see that at the Bolsa, it's 21%, and you see that the chamber, it's 25% with an EBITDA of 45%. Precia, a growth of 18% and an EBITDA of 30%. And Set ICAP, 16% and EBITDA of over 56%. So each one of the companies at the individual level have financial results that we consider very interesting.
Pues nos sentimos muy orgullosos de ser una organización con paridad de género. 50% de nuestros colaboradores son hombres y 50 mujeres, o 51-49. Pero estamos, digamos, en paridad. Somos una compañía también enfocada en el bienestar de nuestros colaboradores. Desde hace muchos años trabajamos con Great Place to Work para ser un empleador, un mejor lugar para trabajar. Tuvimos un incremento en nuestra puntuación el año pasado que también nos llena de satisfacción. Y muy importante, en el año 2021 sufrimos muchísimo con una altísima rotación. El índice de rotación de la organización llegó al 24% en el año 2021. Logramos reducirlo al 16%. De todas maneras, es un índice de rotación muy alto. Habla bien de la calidad de nuestro talento, de que nuestro talento es apetecido en el mercado y pues tiene oportunidades fuera de la organización, pero hemos venido mejorando, digamos, todos los énfasis en mejorar las condiciones para nuestros trabajadores y que se queden con nosotros más tiempo y logramos reducir ese indicador como mencionaba. Dentro de las cosas que hemos venido haciendo, hicimos un cambio en los beneficios en la organización para hacerlos más flexibles, de tal manera que
benefits younger collaborators who have a greater flexibility have been certified as a family responsible company and in an environment that is free and transparent of respect and dignity for LGBTI. Of our people are LGBT. So we have an open environment and totally transparent. That these are the main elements. And with respect to environmental management, since last year you saw at the Shareholders Assembly, our group VVC carbon neutral infrastructure for the second year. We have compensated more than 100% of the carbon footprint generated. As you know, the commitment is not only to be carbon neutral, but to decrease the footprint. And the result is impressive. We have a 38% reduction in the carbon footprint in 2022. Initiatives to decrease consumption in each one of the three lines that are measured in carbon footprint. We compensated 3 times the carbon footprint through different mathematics with the purchase of carbon, through Inversor, which is a socially responsible fund. We have a good impact. We have adequate disposal of toxic material. Products that have all metals, cables, and things like that. This is an investment that we have where we have a adequate disposal of these digital garbage for the planet. And finally, we have the first TCFD report, and it is going to be mandatory for issuers in the Colombian equity market. I wanted at the end to talk about the regional integration progress. As you saw on the first slide, it's one of the 6 pillars that we have in our strategy that we have been working in the last 4 years with a lot of effort of the board of directors and with the commission of VVC in Colombia. We have gone through different phases, and we can report today that we believe that we are in the final phase to consolidate this integration. We are requesting 2 authorizations, one in Chile and one in Colombia. The Chilean one is to accept the new society as a issuer that will be the holding in Chile as a security market issuer, and through this regional holding in Chile. This should take place in the following weeks. We're speaking about weeks to receive the authorization. And with that, we can go to the final phase, and that is the signing of the final agreements and the merger of the companies in Chile, that we hope that it will be before the end of May. After 4 years of a lot of work and of a critical path that was quite complex, but with the conviction and with the assistance of the 3 organizations board of directors, we have been working very well. And we have the great news very soon for all the shareholders, where you will be transferring your shares from Colombia to a regional holding that will be at the Santiago Stock Exchange, and we will have also the possibility of having this in Peru and Colombia. We will be a larger company present in 3 countries, and we will be repeating the success story of BVC in Colombia, but surpassing this with a greater scale that we allow us to have a
company that will allow us to provide service in 3 countries with more than 100 million inhabitant
comienza a ser
population.
muy
And we
relevante
believe that
a
it's
nivel
going to be
regional y,
relevant
por
at
qué no,
regional
a nivel
level
internacional.
and maybe
Ese
at
sería el informe,
international
presidente.
level. This will be the
Muchísimas gracias.
report, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Gracias, doctor Córdoba.
Thank you, Mr. Córdoba.
¿Alguna
Is there
pregunta sobre el
any
informe?
question about the management report? Well, as you know, the management report was published in the web. You were able to download it with the QR code also. So we are going to present to your consideration the approval of the report for the year 2022. As of this moment, we are opening the vote. So please select the button Verify Active Votes on the platform. Once you see that the motion is open, select one of the voting options.
Dr. Rania, could you please inform us of the voting results? One moment, Dr. Maurice. We have a shareholder casting their vote. The voting registration process is now closed. What are the results, please? We from the Assembly that the first point, approval of the 2022 management report of the Board of Directors and the President of the Stock Exchange, has been approved by 92.93% of the quorum, equivalent to 47,050,1774 shares. The point has been approved very well. 6th point on the agenda. Dr. Gustavo Roa, the Principal Fiscal Reviewer of the firm KPMG, we kindly ask you to read the Fiscal Reviewer's report. Thank you very much, Dr. Mauricio. Good morning to all shareholders and the Colombian Stock Exchange. I will refer to the opinion paragraph where I indicate that I have audited the financial statements of the stock exchange. Hereinafter refer to the change which comprise the separate statement of financial position as December 31st, 2022, the separate statement of comprehensive income, separate statement of changes in equity, and separate statements of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In my opinion, the separate financial statements referred to above prepared in accordance with the accounting information standard accepted in Colombia fairly presents in all material respects the financial information position of the change at December 31st, 2022, the separate resulting of its operation, separate changes in equity, and separate cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the accounting information standards accepted in Colombia, consistently applied with the previous year. This is my opinion paragraph. Then, within the content, and throughout the report devices, my opinion represented, I would like to read an important topic, which is that the audit was conducted in accordance with the international auditing standards accepted in Colombia. My responsibilities in accordance with those standards are described in the selection of responsibilities of the fiscal reviewer in relation to the audit of the separate financial statements in the report. I am independent from the change in accordance with the Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants issued by Ethics Board, ISBA code, and the standard for accountants include the information assurances standards accepted in Colombia, along with the relevant ethical requirements for my audit of separate financial statements established in Colombia, and I have fulfilled my ethical responsibilities in accordance with those requirements and the aforementioned ISB code.
Aspects for the financial statement, we didn't see any audit issue that should be reported here. And then we have the responsibility vis-a-vis the preparation of the financial statements. My responsibility as auditor to do the auditing on the financial statements. On the final report, I will talk about the other legal requirements that are required in Colombia so that the fiscal auditor will issue the report. Based on the report in 2022, the accounting of the stock exchange has been done according to accounting standards, that the operations that are recorded in the books are adjusted to the shareholders assembly law, and they are duly preserved. We have complied with the standards of the financial institution in Colombia related to the financial situation and the profit and loss statements and the applicable risk management, and we have complied with Law 21 of the program of transparency through instructions of the Financial Superintendency of Colombia related to internal control that is applicable according to the opinion of April. We have agreement between the financial statement that is found in the management report issued by the managers, including the circulation of invoices issued by the suppliers. The data included in the data for the Social Security, especially those affiliated in the Social Security system, are included from the accounting records. They have a contribution for this comprehensive system. They comply with the legal requirements of Colombia, so I'm going to talk about the internal control and if these actions are adjusted to the decision of the shareholder aspect. There is a separate report, and the conclusion is we had no finding to report about this aspect. With respect to the response to the letters direct addressed to the shareholders or to I signed this report on February 22, 2023, Gustavo Roja, a fiscal auditor, member of KPMG. Now I'm going to mention also to talk about the consolidated financial statement report that will be presented to you. I start with a paragraph about the opinion, and I tell the shareholders of Bolsa de Valores that we have audited the financial status of Bolsa de Valores and their subsidiaries, the group, including the consolidated status of financial situation as of December 31st, 2022, and the status of results and other results in changes in equity and cash flows for the year ended on that date, and the corresponding notes, including the significant accounting policy. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements that are attached to the report present in all aspects consolidated financial situation of the group as of December 31st, 2022, the consolidated result of operations, the consolidated cash flows for the year ended in that date according to the international standards of financial information applied uniformly with the previous years. The other paragraphs are paragraphs similar to the report that I issue of the separated financial statements. The only difference with the consolidated financial statements is that I include a paragraph of key aspects that have an impact on the consolidated financial statement, and that has to do with the assessment of deterioration as a result of purchase of the company, Depósito Central de Valores y Cámara de Riesgo de Contraparte, and the data is included in notes 15 and 16 of the consolidated financial statements. These are issues that, because of its importance and the involvement that they have for assessing if there is a deterioration with this plus value, they require special care by us as auditors of the consolidated financial statement. This is a key aspect, and the result of the auditors about this aspect, I have nothing to report about this specific aspect. Then we have the paragraph related to the responsibility of the administration and preparation of these financial statements. I signed a report on February 27, 2023, Gustavo Adolfo Rueda Camargo, auditor, with a professional card number and with a partner of KPMG SAS. Thank you very much, Mr. Roa. Once we know the fiscal auditor report, we can read the next item in the agenda, please. Item number 7. Point 7, approval of financial statements, separate and consolidated for 2022, and approval of first-time adoption items. The shareholders are informed that in compliance with the relevant rules, the financial statements are consolidated and separate corresponding to the year 2022 were submitted to the Audit and Risk Committee of the Stock Exchange in session of February 21, 2023, and to the Board of Directors in sessions of February 22nd and 23rd of the same year's body that authorized to submit it to the Assembly. Likewise, the shareholders are informed that all the financial statements were available to them since March 8, 2023 through the website of the Stock Exchange and offices. I give the floor to Mr. Diego Fernandez Perdomen, the CFO of the Stock Exchange, to present the separate and consolidated financial statements of the company as of December 31st, 2022. Thank you, Mr. Rosillo. I'm going to make a summary of the financial situation as of December 2022. We're going to start with the separate financial statements and starting with the profit and loss statement. We see last year the BVC had a 87.4 billion pesos with an increase of 21%. We had operating expenses, almost 86 billion pesos. There was an important growth due to specific aspects such as the operational excellence projects, that many expenses that had to do with the regional integration mentioned by Mr. Cordova as one of the strategic pillars, and something that has to do with expenses, the NUA, that they're going to the cloud in the main technological platforms. So we should underscore the participation, that is a profit that we have from the affiliate. It's 31 billion pesos, and the individual results that were presented by Juan Pablo, and the net earnings before taxes, 40 billion pesos. This value is the one that we will consider later on for the profit distribution project. On the balance sheet, we can have these companies that have a stable balance, large figures here, total assets 633 billion pesos, liabilities of 30 billion pesos, the same level of debt, and in very robust equity, shareholders' equity. If we compare to the previous years, we have very few variation. In the next slide, I can talk about specific changes and some increases, some specific adjustments in some assets and liabilities accounts. In assets and non-financial assets, in 2021, when we sold the Sophos company, we had an account receivable for the buyers. That account receivable was in effect in 2022, it was 9 billion pesos. And a non-financial asset is where you see the variation between 21 and 22. The other accounts in liabilities, we had no relevant variation, as I mentioned. Shareholders' equity is quite a solid, robust account. Individually, there is a total of 603 billion pesos. We have reserves and a premium in share stocks. In cash flows, we can underscore here the Stock Exchange of Colombia. It's a solid company for cash management, and in the daily operations, the cash flow at the end, we started the year with had a 21 billion pesos in January, and we concluded the year with a net cash and a cash equivalent of 24 billion pesos. In the financial statement for changes in equity, the status of the equity we saw in the previous statement, to the most important variation in the year is the payment of dividends last year that was around 35 billion pesos, and the net profit that will be for the distribution is 37 billion pesos. So in summary, the situation of the individual statements, it's positive, and we can go and see the consolidated financial statements that were also referred by the fiscal auditor. The consolidated financial statement, basically, we can underscore that the individual statement, we can have also the good results of these affiliated companies.
Total de gastos de 189 mil millones de pesos. La utilidad por método de participación en este consolidado, la única compañía que no consolida es ICAP, de manera que allí estamos trayendo casi 8 mil millones de pesos de método de participación de una compañía en la que somos propietarios del 50% de sus acciones. La utilidad antes de impuestos fue de 65 mil millones de pesos. La provisión de impuestos, 37 mil millones de pesos, lo mencionó el doctor Córdoba en su presentación y Gustavo Roa en su presentación de la revisoría fiscal. Aquí tenemos el ajuste importante de los impuestos por el cambio de la tasa del impuesto de ganancia ocasional del 10 al 15%, que afecta particularmente en este estado financiero a los negocios combinados, como lo mencionó el revisor fiscal. Entonces, en términos de activos, pasivos y patrimonio consolidado, aquí importante resaltar, este es el estado financiero que nos muestra el consolidado, incluyendo las operaciones de contraparte de la Cámara de Riesgo Central de Contraparte de Colombia. Por eso allí vemos un activo total de 129 billones de pesos, de los cuales 128 corresponden a las operaciones abiertas.
Open operations and counterparty operations of the clearinghouse. In the liability, this affects liabilities and liabilities, and it has a neutral effect on equity. As Pablo mentioned in his report, if we isolate that open position, 120 billion pesos, the consolidated statement of assets, it will be 737 million pesos, billion pesos, with a position that is quite solid, associated to a good result of all group companies. With respect to asset details, and in the consolidated asset report that has to do with property and equipment, maybe we can share in the property and equipment that went down from 45 to 21 billion because of we sold the venue that was owned by Deceval in Calle 26. That process took place last year. It's 21 billion pesos. This is the variation, the most important variation that we see on assets. On liabilities, there is nothing different to what we were mentioning in the individual statement. These are companies with a very low liability level, and it has been quite stable between 1 year and the next. With respect to a shareholders' equity account, we have a total equity of 632 billion pesos. 578,000 billion are the controlling, and the rest is the non-controlling one. The cash flow status, if we add the affiliates, they have a very important position at the closing. At the beginning of the period, the consolidated group started with a cash flow and a cash equivalent of 47 billion pesos. We closed the year in 78.7 billion pesos, as it was included in the management report. So it's a solid cash position, and for regional integration, we have some important commitments, so we are of this transaction. And finally, in the consolidated equity, at the beginning of the last year, it was 650 billion, and we have now a 631, which is affected because of a change in tax profit, a tax difference. We need to refer to adjustment of the first-time adoption items, and this corresponds with the company adopted the international accounting standards in 2014, and this is basically the annual adjustment on property, plant, and equipment. This is an effect that has the equity account, but is neutral, so it will not affect the equity. And in the shareholders' assembly, we have seen the adjustment is 126 billion pesos. The value is not the relevant one, but what we have to inform the shareholders' assembly that we are doing this in the life of the assets that are owned by the company. This is the end of the presentation of financial statements. Is there any question about the financial statements? Well, so we will be presenting the statements, separated and consolidated, the financial statements. So as of this moment, the vote is open. Please select the button Verify Active Votes on the platform. Once you see that the motion is open, select the option. The vote is open. The voting is open now. The vote is now closed. Please, Alberto, the results. Point 7, approval of the financial statements separated and consolidated for the year 2022. It has been favorably voted by 92.94% of favorable votes, equivalent to 47,517,857 votes. Thank you, Alberto. So we move to the next item on the agenda, please. Point 8, study and approval of the constitution of reserves and profit sharing project. On the website is published the profit distribution project for the accounting year 2022, which was authorized by the board of directors of the company on March 24, 2023. I give the floor to Mr. Cordova to present the corresponding proposal for profit distribution. Thank you, Mr. President. I do not see, I'm sorry. As we mentioned before, the net profit of these is 35 billion pesos. We adjusted the proposal and we increase by 15 billion pesos. So because we are close to the stock exchange within the regional integration, so we have a commitment of having a portfolio of 90 billion pesos. So the estimates is that we were going to have a surplus that will allow us to distribute 15 billion more. So we started from 37,845 billion pesos, as we said. It has to do with the company profit separated from the financial statement. It's not the consolidated one, but the individual one. But within the project that what we are proposing is to release some reserves in order to make 100% of the profit, where the ordinary and extraordinary will be non-tax. So we are releasing a profit of previous periods that are non-taxable. Of previous period, we need 4.9 billion, so they can of the net profit will be non-taxable, and the 15 billion pesos of an extraordinary dividend. With this set of reserves, we will be proposing to distribute 52.8 billion pesos, composed on ordinary 100%, so it's 37.8 billion, and plus 15 billion more. Everything will be distributed in cash, and that is 873 pesos per share, so it's an increase of 49% with respect to the previous year. Once again, looking at the integration process, as I mentioned, we consider that it can be finished in May. We propose to have a unique payment of these dividends on April 28. Both the ordinary and the extraordinary will be sent on April 28. So it will be the 4 days before the distribution that will be between April 24 and April 27, in order to make the payment on April 28, because we're releasing 19.9 and plus 4.9. This assembly should agree in the incorporation of this reserve and the use of this reserve. The occasional reserve is like we have done in other years. The occasional reserves strengthen the cash for excellence and for project continuity. We want to ask for the incorporation of this reserve so we can use 100 million pesos for the payment of cash, shares in cash. because of the exchange that we are going to have between the regional holding and the shares of Bolsa de Valores de Colombia. All shareholders that have less than 5 shares will end with a fraction, and that can be 0.3, 0.4, 0.8 of one share, because we cannot deliver that. We have to pay the difference in cash. So making the estimate of 5,000 shareholders, we have like 60 million, so 65 million pesos. We want to propose a reserve of 100 million pesos. So all shareholders, all shareholders participating in the exchange, we can deliver in cash the fraction that cannot be done. So this project for profit distribution is 52.8 billion pesos, with a dividend per stock or per share of 873, and that will be payable in one quota on April 28 and one installment. And we will have the clarification that part of these 100 million pesos of the reserve will be to pay fractions, and that will be the proposal, Mr. President. Juan Pablo, we will be submitting to the consideration of shareholders the proposal presented by Mr. Cordova. So we are opening now the process. The vote is going to be open now. So select the button, verify active votes on the platforms. Once you see that the motion is open, select the arrow to display the voting options. If you have any technical difficulty, we have available the personnel in charge of the voting devices, so they can help you to solve any issue you may have. We're closing the voting process now. Could you please indicate the result of the vote? Yes, sir. Point 8, the approval and study of the incorporation of reserves and the profit distribution. We see 90.63% approved, equivalent to 49,919,105. The point has been approved. So let's go to the next item on the agenda.
Ninth, election of independent members of the Board of Directors. Please, can you indicate the nominees as members of the Board of Directors, as independent members? On the slide, you can see the list of independent members nominees, as well as the shareholder. So we have the shareholder is Acciones y Valores S.A. We have Jimena Cadena Ordóñez, Juan Pablo Galán Otálora, Ángela Hurtado Castro, Santiago Montenegro Trujillo, Juan Rafael Pérez Vélez, Federico Rengifo Vélez, Rafael Aparicio Escayón. The Committee of Corporate Governance on its session verified the commissions and the special conditions that that the aspirants or nominees must have to be considered as independent members of the Board of Directors. Thank you very much. Can you please indicate if lists have been registered, additional members as independent members? Yes, there is a list by Acciones y Valores S.A., which is made up by those people that are considered eligible by the Corporate Governance and Sustainability Committee, which has been verified by the General Secretary. The list submitted is as follows, as you can see on the screen. These are the nominees. So, as I mentioned before, María Jimena Cadena Ordóñez, Juan Pablo Galán Otálora, Ángela Hurtado Castro, and as fourth, Santiago Montenegro Trujillo. Fifth, Juan Rafael Pérez Vélez. Sixth, Federico Rengifo Vélez. Seventh, Rafael Aparicio Escayón. At this point, it is necessary to remind attendees that the voting options for the items related to the election of members of the Board of Directors are in favor, against, or blank. So the voting process is open right now. So we will appreciate to use the system for your vote intention. The voting process is closed. May you please indicate the results of the vote? Yes. The voting process for the election of independent members gave the following result. So the election quotient used is of 7,278,311.9. The post to be filled 7, given that there is a single list. So in favor, it was 97.58% of the votes present. That is equal to 8,555,000 votes. So the total list presented has been elected as independent board members. So now the next item of the agenda, the 10th, election of members that are not independent members to the Board of Directors. Can you please indicate the list of nominees in order to have the list of non-independent members? Okay, the nominees that are not independent members to the Board of Directors, as well as the shareholders presented Acciones y Valores, and the members presented Mauricio Rosillo Rojas, Germán Salazar Castro, Carlos Alberto Rodríguez López, Jaime Castañeda Roldán, Aura Marlene Arcila Giraldo, Roberto Augusto Belchior da Silva. Shareholder B3 Brasil, Bolsa Balsao, presented as nominee Roberto Augusto Belchior da Silva. So in the committee, in its meeting of March 16, verified and conceived favorable those that have the quality as non-independent members of the Board of Directors. I would like to inform that a list, there is a single list, and it has been presented by the shareholder Acciones y Valores, and the nominees to that single list, Mauricio Rosillo Rojas, Germán Salazar Castro, Carlos Alberto Rodríguez López, Jaime Castañeda Roldán, Aura Marlene Arcila Giraldo, and Roberto Augusto Belchior da Silva. So we would like to present to the Assembly the list of nominees. The voting process is open. The voting process is now closed. Can you please read the results of the votes? Yes. Since there has been a single list registered for this process, we are electing the board members that are not independent. And the results are as follows. The total of valid votes we have that 97% of those present, 49.8 million votes. So we have the election quotient 8,491,363.83. So the total list presented has been elected by the board of directors. Consequently, the members that are part of the mentioned list are part of the board of directors by decision of the members of the assembly. I want to thank all the shareholders. So we will read the next item of the agenda. 11th, fixing board members' fees in compliance with the remuneration policy of the board of directors and in accordance with the recommendations of the country codes, corporate best practices, in the sense that it is advisable for the remuneration to reflect all aspects inherent in the functions and responsibilities performed. It is proposed to maintain the current remuneration structure, whereby from the base fees for each member for each session a scale of fees established for the roles of committee chairs and for the president of the council. The base fees per session of the board and committees for the period April 2023 to March 2024 correspond to a value of 4,063,000 pesos. Similarly, by 2024-2025, it is proposed to maintain the annual growth policy and make the adjustment according to the Consumer Price Index 2023. Thank you, Roberto. So we would like to present the proposal to set the fees of the members of the Board of Directors of BVC, which has been submitted to be considered by shareholders. So at this moment, the voting process is open, and please select the button to verify active votes on the platforms. So the process is now open. The voting process is now closed. May you please indicate the result of the vote? Item 11, setting the fees of the members of the Board of Directors, has been approved by 99.6% of the shareholders present, and it corresponds to 50,947,342 shares. So this has been approved based on the terms herein presented. Thank you very much. So now we'll continue with the next item of the agenda, Mr. Velandia. Now we have the election of the fiscal auditor for the period 2023-2025 and approval of the budgetary provision for its management. Thank you, Mr. Rosillo. for the election of the fiscal auditor for this new period, the administration conducted an exercise in order to compare proposals from the economic and technical area. Our current one is KPMG, and the proposal of KPMG is to set the fees of 414.9 million pesos. So it didn't even reach the inflation rate of 13.1%. So the increase has been of 10%. We went over all the suppliers that were in this field to act as auditors, and the recommendation of the management team was to renew this process. And according to the bylaws for that same period, the board of directors for 2 years with KPMG. So that is the recommendation of the management team, and it was adopted by the board of directors as of the month of February. Just to certify, the proposal has included the allocation, a budgetary allocation for 414 million pesos to cover the necessary expenses for the proper performance of the fiscal review. So the increase in the proposed services for 2023 corresponds to 10%. So the proposed election of the BBC tax review of 2023-2025 statutory period and approval of the budgetary provisions for its management is submitted to shareholders for consideration. So now we would like to open the vote process. The voting process is now closed. So, Mr. Velandia, could you please indicate the results of the voting process? We then would like to inform that the election of the fiscal auditor and the approval of the budgetary provision for its management has been approved by the Assembly with a favorable voting of 97.24%. Votes present. That corresponds to 49,718,168 stocks. So the election of the tax auditor and the approval of the budgetary provision has been approved. Now we have the program of the corporate social responsibility and the grant program. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Diego Fernandez, CFO of the Stock Exchange, BBC, so he will explain the program. Thank you very much. What was presented by Mr. Cordova in the management report, the project of the Colombian Stock Exchange is to continue approving literacy in and also software development. And we would like to do this with Pro Talento and Politécnico Internacional in order to give continuity within this sustainability process. The request to the Assembly and approved by the Board of Directors is to approve a provision of 700 million pesos. On the graph, you see the evolution of previous years. So this will enable us to give continuity and sustainability to these programs. So that is the request presented, Mr. Chair. Okay, we would like for shareholders to consider this proposal and to vote. For the minutes purpose, This item was presented before the board of directors and they are suggesting their adoption. So the voting process is now opened. The voting process is now closed. May you please indicate the results of the vote? Yes, item 13, the program of corporate social responsibility, which includes the annual grants program, has been approved by the General Assembly's voting with a favorable vote of 99.64% of the shares present, which is equivalent to 50,947,342 shares. This item has been approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. So now we would like to read the next item of the agenda. 14th, shareholders' proposals. We have not received a proposal from shareholders to include additional items. So bearing that in mind, we would like to adjourn this session. But before that, we want to thank you for your trust. 2022 was a very challenging year, but you can see the excellent results for the stock exchange and affiliated companies. And we are positive that in 2023 we'll have very positive things. The integration of the markets and of the stock exchanges encourages us, and what is at stake there is the future of the Colombian stock market and of the region. So most likely we will move forward and we will adopt important steps in that area. Mr. Cordova, if you allow me, before adjourning the General Assembly meeting, we would like to mention that we have substituted what we gave the representatives of the shareholders coming. We have substituted that by a contribution. No, it's there. It's on the screen. So we are given a carbon bond, and we have compensated 210 tons of CO2. And this is a project that we have in the Colombian Caribbean region, which aims at reducing and removing greenhouse gases through forestry, plantations, and the conservation of dry and tropical forests. The location is Montes de Maria and Depresión Momposina, which are in the departments of Bolívar and Córdoba. The area is 14,000 hectares. Well, in spite of the fact that last year was a very complex year as to the macroeconomic effects, however, we have had very good results, and we are committed to continue growing and to become a multinational together with our colleagues from Chile and Peru. Thank you very much for your attention.